Does that sound like some of your families? You made the mess, you cleaned it up. No, I didn't. Complaining. On and on. Mary understood what was important. Martha got wrapped up in the problems. Mary understood that when you sit at Jesus' feet, not only do you learn from the Master, but you find peace. You find forgiveness. You find grace. The nice part about being a rabbi and having followers, in the early century, they just didn't study what the Master said. Their goal was not to learn the words that they said. Their goal was to study what the Master did. Their goal was not just to memorize Bible texts word for word. Their goal was to be like the Master. They spent a lifetime following his disciples to do what the Master did, just like they were the Master. Mary understood that. Mary decided that she was going to spend time at Jesus' feet looking for that forgiveness and for that peace. At the foothills of the Sierras is a town called Grass Valley. And for 3 days, the storm had been moving its way down from Alaska. And this was a big storm, one that they hadn't seen in a long time. Packing winds and rain and it was miserable. Absolutely miserable. The power was out. The Sierras to the east were getting massive amounts of snow. And in this small little room by candlelight, Father O'Malley was preparing his sermon for that week. And as Father O'Malley was filling out, reading his Bible and studying what to talk about, the phone rang. So he picked himself up from his chair, took the candle and shielded it with his hand, and walked to answer the phone. Hello, this is Father O'Malley. On the other end was an excited voice. Father, this is the night nurse at the hospital, and we've got a patient who's terminally ill. Can you come? He's requested that you come see him. Well, I'll be glad to, but it's going to take me a while. The storm is pretty bad, and I'm not sure I can make it through, but give me a couple hours and I'll see what I can do. So Father O'Malley gets in his car and starts driving down the road. And as he crosses the bridge, it's about a 30-mile drive normally, but pretty tough going. And a couple of the spots, the bridge has been washed out, but thankfully, there's just enough left that he can kind of make it around and through the trees, and he's fighting through it all, and by the time he gets there, he's pretty exhausted. And in the distance, he kind of sees the light of the hospital, so he pulls up into it, looks around the parking lot, and it's pretty late now. And he sees 3 cars, so he kind of thinks, well, maybe if I park over behind them, I can kind of be shielded from the wind a little bit. So he gets on his raincoat, puts his Bible in, and opens the door. He can barely open the door. The wind is blowing so hard. Well, he finally gets out, leans into the wind, and pushes his way up to the hospital, opens the door bangs with a big slam, and up rushes the nurse. Oh, you made it. He's fading fast. You gotta hurry. Well, can you tell me something? What's happening? Well, we don't know that much about him. He's been a lifelong alcoholic. His liver's fading, and he's not going to last long. Well, what's his name? we call him Tom. Okay, where is he? So she points him to the room. Tom goes over, knocks slightly on the door. Hello, Tom. My name is Father O'Malley, and I was just in the neighborhood and thought I'd stop by and see if you'd like to chat. Oh, be quiet. I know why you're here. That stupid night nurse. It's 3:30 in the morning. Of course you're only here for one reason. Hurry and give me my last rites, because I'm not going to last much longer. Father O'Malley smiled a little bit, said, okay. So he prayed and performed the last rites. And when the final amen was said, Tom seemed to perk up a little bit. And Father O'Malley said, do you want to, share? Do you need to ask for some forgiveness and confession? Do you, what? Absolutely not. Father O'Malley said, well, then, maybe I should. No, stay. I'd like to talk. So for the next couple hours, Father O'Malley and Tom talked about not much. Korean War, history. And every so often, Father O'Malley would ask him again, are you sure there's nothing that you need to talk about? Absolutely. And as the darkness started to fade and the dawn of the morning began to slowly creep into the room, Father asked again, and Tom said, I did something so bad when I was young, I've never talked about it to this day. There's no way in the world that we can talk about it now. So Father said a quick prayer and wasn't sure what to do. So they talked a little bit more. He asked again. Finally, Tom broke down and said, well, I guess it's too late for anybody to do anything to me anyway, so I might as well tell you. You see, my job was a switch operator for the trains. 32 years, 2 months, and 11 days ago, I was working in Bakersfield. It's a few days before Christmas, and we were all pretty down and depressed. So my buddies and I that were all working decided that we would start drinking. And that night was pretty much very similar to a night like tonight. Storming, winds blowing, rain everywhere. And as the night went on, we got worse and worse. And finally it was time to throw the switch for the 8:30 northbound freight train. And I guess I was worse off than the rest of them, so I volunteered to go throw the switch. I fought my way out through the rain and wind, and when I threw the switch, I threw it the wrong way. A few minutes later, the northbound freight came through at 45 miles an hour and plowed into a passenger car, instantly killing a father, a mother, and 2 young girls. Tom thought to himself, see how bad I am? Even Father O'Malley can't say anything. Silence hung. Finally, Father O'Malley reached up, put his hand on the shoulder of Tom and said, Tom, I can forgive you. God can forgive you. You see, that was my father and my mother and my 2 older sisters. Coincidence? How do you learn forgiveness like that? Is forgiveness a human trait? Naturally, we don't like to forgive. We like to get even. That's a human trait. But not forgiveness. Sitting at the feet of Jesus, you learn to do extraordinary things. You can do things that just defy imagination. Tom ruined his whole life by the guilt that he had. Instead of taking his issues and his problems and his shame and taking it to the feet of Jesus, he ran away from Jesus. Father O'Malley, instead of taking the hatred and the anger and the frustration of losing his entire family, he took his problems to the feet of Jesus. Where do you take your problems? Do you take them to the feet of Jesus? It's interesting how the more time you spend at the feet of Jesus, the more you become like Jesus. The more time you spend away from Jesus, the less you are like Jesus. Luke 10:41-42. But the Lord said to her, "My dear Martha, you are worried and upset over all these details. There is only one thing worth being concerned about. Mary has discovered it, and it will not be taken away from her." Mary figured out what was important. Martha struggled with it. Mary figured out that at the feet of Jesus, you find grace. Mary figured out that at the feet of Jesus, you find forgiveness. But most importantly, at the feet of Jesus, you develop the character of Jesus. Martha struggled with that. Now, it's okay to be a Martha. It's okay to be busy in work. But how many of us work more than we spend time at the feet of Jesus? I'm so busy. You know what? I don't have time to do a daily Bible study. My job takes up all of my time. My kids, my fill in the blank. Aunt Marty is what all the kids called her, but her name was Martha. And Pastor James loved to hear Martha's voice on the phone when she called him. But this time when she called, it didn't sound the same. Something sounded a little different. And Martha said, "Pastor, I'd really like to speak with you. Is it possible for you to come by my house tomorrow?" "No problem. I'll be there at 3 o'clock. So the next afternoon at 3 o'clock,